Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, December 6, 2024. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Start off first with discussions on whether or not we're dealing with this torch or not, because I'm hearing that a lot in social media, and it's kind of funny. It's a little bit. We'll have one really warm day, but let me dive into some of the details of what I'm seeing with the evolution of this pattern. First of all, in terms of tropical forcing, pretty much focused on the MJO, which right now is supporting more of a La Nina feel. So you're seeing a rise in the SOI, you're seeing the southeast ridge. This is all typical of an MJO in phases 4, 5, and 6. I do want to stress the actual ENSNO state, the El Nino Southern Oscillation state, is neutral. I know that there's some individuals out there running around saying, like, hey, if you adjust the temperatures to focus on global warming and you shift it warmer, then it looks like a La Nina, and that's why we have La Nina conditions. That's not the case. The SOI is not responding in any way, shape, or form to the El Nino Southern Oscillation forcing mechanisms. It just isn't. It's clearly responding via the MJO, and via the MJO, sorry. And the reason why we know that is that the SOI was tanking into a negative state when the MJO was in these phases and rising in these phases. During a El Nino or La Nina, the evolution of the MJO and influence in the SOI is nil. Okay? When you have an El Nino or La Nina in place, the MJO is kind of a enhancement of those states or a reduction in the influence, but doesn't change the core of the 500 millibar pattern. So it's kind of a personality enhancement, but not really a driver, right? When you have no driving El Nino or La Nina in place, the MJO becomes the dominant tropical forcing mechanism. And in this case, right now, it is in a La Nina type of phase, in phases 3, 4, and 5. And so we're seeing La Nina-like conditions and a relatively weak subtropical jet stream. But notice all of the Malgines are starting to shift towards phase 7 and maybe 8. We're seeing that here and here. Now, the CFS is much stronger in phase 6, and the European is much weaker. Looking at some of the observations, I'm leaning more towards the European solution here, but let's kind of split the difference here and say it's moderate in phase 6, like around here, which would be within the realm of different model guidance here, and then shifting into a weak phase 7. So not neutral, not strong, but just kind of slightly moderate to minor influence. So this would suggest a more active subtropical jet stream as we move towards January, and more of a support for a colder weather pattern. So it'll have a slight hint of a southeast ridge, but that gets suppressed in this scenario. But of course, the only forcing mechanism is not just the MJO, but our friend the polar vortex. And model guidance here is suggesting a better chance for seeing some stretching and warping, and maybe a hint of a stratospheric warming event. We have to get closer. I mean, this is a bit far out, 10 to 15 days. All model guidance is showing this setup here. The European is really aggressive in this. So this would stretch your polar vortex, kind of doing one of these loops here, which would set up our cold weather pattern just in time for early January. But we have to see this, as I talked about in the weekly chat on Wednesday. I want to see this actually take hold 10 days out. Okay, let's actually start seeing this showing up around December 15th, 19th, this warming taking place. So we have to wait and see, but the model guidance certainly is suggesting some interesting evolution. The model guidance here at 10 millibars. Now, I want to make this very clear. This is the average of the polar vortex in terms of speed. This is above, so we're currently in a strong polar vortex regime. This is weak, and this is where you completely destroy the polar vortex. I doubt with a positive QBO that we end up in this scenario, but let's just recognize the fact that model guidance is increasingly more trying to point to this direction, but I'm very skeptical of this. But this idea of trending weaker, I can't call it weak. If this ends out in this range, and yeah, we're talking about a weak polar vortex, but weaker. So this tells me, hey, it's more supportive of stretching the polar vortex. It's more likely to happen. We've already seen it when it was strong. It would increase the potential if it was weaker and below average. But I don't want to call this and make anyone think that I'm calling for a weak polar vortex or a destruction of the polar vortex. There is some guidance showing that, but I think that's jumping the gun a bit. We have to wait until we get a little bit more data. But what I have been talking about frequently to premium members for several weeks now, well, really months, is hey, the QBO, which influences the strength of the polar vortex, it is the winds at 30 and 50 millibars, is weakening. We were well within 15 to 17. In fact, the QBO for November peaked at about 13, but in early November, it was a 17, and it's been weakening ever since. So these dash lines are 5 meters per second. This is 10 meters per second. So you can see here, you got 0, 10 meters per second, 20 meters per second. So when you get up in this range, it's very strong. When you get in this range, it's moderate. When you get into this range between minus 10 and 10, that's weak. And if you're looking for high latitude blocking, you want to be in this range. And what we're seeing here is that as we move through early December, as we move through late November into early December, the QBO has been weakening. And the easterly phase is starting to descend. So very interesting data. If we see this continue to weaken in January and February, this increases your potential for stretching and for high latitude blocking in North America. So that explains why, with all of this data, and again, observations and some model guidance here mixed in, this is why you're seeing, okay, you get a little bit of a warm phase. Want to call it that. Let's call it a seasonable phase. Wouldn't call this a torch in any way, shape, or form, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But then we go from that to a much colder weather pattern, a very interesting weather pattern. And as we head towards the end of this, again, you don't ever take this verbatim, but what this says to me is like, hey, trough in the Aleutians, ridge along the west coast here. We'll have to see where exactly the ridge axis sets up for each individual storm. But you end up with this broad trough in the polar jet stream, maybe a hint of a weak negative NAO signal here. We'll have to see how this plays out for each storm threat. Your southeast ridge is suppressed. And so generally your storm tracks, much like I said with the winter forecast back in October, storms set up around the southern plains, let's say around Oklahoma or the Texas Panhandle, shoot up towards the Tennessee River Valley, either shoot off or redevelop off the Delmarva Peninsula or the New Jersey coast, or you get it tracked up into the Ohio River Valley and redevelop off of Long Island. In other words, a whole lot of mess in the northern Mid-Atlantic for January and February. Okay, so December, hey, look, everyone's traveling. No one wants a big storm except for a few people. I get it, but still, very interesting data showing up here as we move through December. And again, I see no torch here. I mean, I know I'm colorblind, but blue usually means chilly. I don't see any raging, well above normal signal here. And precipitation, well, we know we need more precipitation. So there's a hint here of going a little bit more precipitation as well. So that's certainly some good news as well as we move forward. And so when I take a look at this 500 millibar pattern, this pattern screams to me progressive, transient, cold, warm weather pattern. You get a warm shot, you get a cold shot. Get a warm shot, get a cold shot. And so with this type of setup here, at seasonable temperatures, you get it one day in the 60s ahead of an Arctic cold front, and then temperatures fall off into the upper 30s. You average that out, and near to maybe slightly above average, maybe a half a degree above average. But overall, this is no torch. None at all. I mean, it just isn't. Now, you have up to this point through mid-December, you end up with a pattern where you have a polar and subtropical jet stream at a sink. That's certainly true, which is why I don't expect any major storms. But, as far as winter storms, snowstorms, things of that nature, but certainly active, and certainly one where we're going to get several cold fronts swinging on through. and polar and Pacific air masses marching their way through. So for today, now look, we have high pressure trying to build in. We got a series of troughs dropping through. Could see a few flurries, maybe even some steadier snow showers in the Poconos and Catskills via our lake effect snow influence. But overall, a chilly day with temperatures generally ranging from the 20s and 30s today. So unfortunately, it's going to be a chilly day and also windy. Winds from the northwest of 10 to 20 miles per hour, at times gusting to 30 miles per hour. You can see on the WeatherTap radar and surface map that trough dropping through. Again, if you're going to see snow showers, they're going to be coming off the Great Lakes. So you could thank Lake Ontario for any snow showers or flurries you see. Not Lake Erie because the winds are coming from the northwest. And so they'll be focused pretty much over western Pennsylvania, maybe clipping into portions of Maryland here. So typically when you get northwesterly winds, if you see any flurries or snow showers, you could thank Lake Ontario. You can see that very nicely here on the infrared satellite picture. No strong lifting here. Definitely chilly. No major storms on the horizon for this weekend. But for next week, well, that's a different story. Now, when we take a look at the 500 millibar PVA here, and we do have a storm setting up for next week. We have one short wave that comes through Monday into Tuesday with some showers, and then you have the next stronger storm coming through on Wednesday into Thursday. Now, why aren't I trying to figure out a way to create snow like some people are doing for this late week? Look, if you're in the Poconos or Catskills, you got a shot at seeing some snow with this system. But why is the coastal plain a no-go? Well, for one, ahead of this storm, your ridge axis is all wrong. It's still too far east. You want it here. You want a ridge axis here in Idaho, in this point of the storm. You also have a positively tilted trough. So what does this mean? It means this disturbance here is going to be faster. It's going to race out ahead of the polar shortwave, and that is essentially what we see here. Any solution where it tries to phase this early, you're going to end up with a storm track lifting up towards the Great Lakes rather than towards the coastal plain. It just isn't there, right? It's not the right pattern, okay? Trough axes or orientations matter, and in this case, that is why you see rain on the coastal plain. But also in this 500 millibar pattern, with a lot of polar and subtropical short waves interacting, you end up with a scenario where you get a lot of cold fronts moving through and a lot of waves of warmer and colder air. And so that is essentially what you're seeing here at 850 millibars. Yes, for this storm, we warm up. This is when we see our warmest air. But then after that, basically you end up with Pacific and polar air masses switching themselves in and out, setting up temperatures that are ranging from the 30s and 40s. I don't see any major warm-up, any torch or anything of that nature as we move through December. If you want a torch, congratulations for this coming Wednesday and Thursday, or actually Wednesday, where somebody could touch maybe upper 50s or 60 degrees around Cape May ahead of the cold front. So let's dive through this forecast. For today, series of troughs move through. Watch out for a few flurries. Scattered cloud cover is expected with high temperatures in the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s along the coast. For tonight into tomorrow, scattered cloud cover, a few flurries. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, a few upper teens mixed in as well. Temperatures along the coast in the mid to upper 20s for lows. For tomorrow afternoon, scattered cloud cover, again, a flurry possible, let's say, around the Poconos and Catskills. Look for high temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. On Sunday, an area of low pressure passes to our north with a few lingering showers, an isolated shower or two, especially in the morning hours, but really not looking for anything significant. Your accumulating snowfall is going to be up towards, let's say, New England and Maine. Look for temperatures on Sunday to range from the lower to mid 30s for lows and high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, mid to upper 40s along the coast, and upper 40s to lower 50s in the Delaware River Valley. On Monday, look for scattered cloud cover leading to increasing cloud cover in the afternoon and showers towards the evening. Look for temperatures to range from the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s along the coast for lows. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, mid to upper 40s along the coast. Showers leave by Tuesday morning, leading to variable cloud cover and a few isolated showers Tuesday afternoon. Look for low temperatures in the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior and in the Delaware River Valley, lower to mid 40s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s in the Delaware River Valley, mid to upper 50s along the coast. On Wednesday, another area of low pressure approaches with waves of rainfall expected. Temperatures on Wednesday will range from the upper 30s to lower 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast. High temperatures on Wednesday will range from the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior. Look for upper 40s to mid 50s along the coast. On Wednesday night into Thursday, a low pressure system lifts through the coastal plain. Look for rain changing over to snow over the interior, with snow lingering into the morning hours over the interior. A few showers along the coast on Thursday morning. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s in the Delaware River Valley, and mid to upper 30s along the coast. By Thursday afternoon, temperatures briefly peak into the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s in the Delaware River Valley, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast. Temperatures will then free fall in the late afternoon and evening hours as cold air rushes into the region. And on Friday, high pressure will be in control with sky cloud cover. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid teens over the northern interior, upper teens to mid 20s in your suburbs, mid to upper 20s in your urban areas and along the coast. High temperatures will range from the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.